1970 was a time when the music was real, the lyrics meant something, and every song felt like it was written just for you. Let's listen in on some of the songs that should have been number one and rekindle those unforgettable moments. All Right Now by Free. When Paul Rodgers unleashed that gritty vocal on an unsuspecting world in May of 1970, nobody realized they were hearing rock history in the making.
All right now, baby, it's all.
Free was barely surviving on the British club circuit, playing to half-empty venues for £50 a night. The band was actually about to break up when bassist Andy Fraser and vocalist Paul Rodgers wrote this track in the back of their van. While it peaked at number 4 on the Billboard Hot 100, it was kept from the top spot by such forgettable fluff as Make It With You by Bread. The recording process was pure 1970s magic. The band recorded it at Island Studios in London using a 16-track recorder that would make modern producers laugh. Paul Kossoff's legendary guitar solo was recorded in one take. Love Grows by Edison Lighthouse, a number 5 hit that should have been a chart topper. This song represents everything great about 70s pop. Soaring melodies, real instruments, and vocals that didn't need computerized help to stay in tune. Recorded at Morgan Studios in London, the tracking was done on 3M tape machines that added a subtle compression you can feel in your soul. The backing vocals were recorded with singers gathered around a single microphone, creating natural harmonies through actual talent. Tony Burrows, the lead singer, appeared on Top of the Pops 4 times in 1 year with 4 different bands. The piano was a real Bechstein Grand, not a $99 keyboard with plastic keys. Get Up, I Feel Like Being a Sex Machine, James Brown. On April the 7th of 1970, James Brown and his new band walked into Starday King Studios in Cincinnati.
Get up, get on up, stay on the scene, get on up like a sex machine.
After splitting with his original band, the Famous Flames, Brown recruited young musicians including brothers Bootsy and Catfish Collins. The result was raw, unfiltered funk that peaked at a criminal number 15 on the Billboard charts. While other artists were still trying to figure out what funk meant, Brown and his band created the blueprint that would influence everything from disco to hip-hop. The real story behind this recording session is even more incredible. The band had barely rehearsed together, and Brown wanted to capture the raw energy of their inexperience. The famous count-off at the beginning wasn't planned. It was Brown literally teaching the band the song as the tape rolled. Vehicle by the Ides of March. In February of 1970, a young Jim Peterick thought he was just laying down a practice take of his band's new song.
I'm your vehicle, baby. Take it anywhere you want to go.
Vehicle shot to number 2 on the Billboard charts, but got stuck behind the Jackson 5's ABC. Peterick wrote it about a girl who kept using him for rides in his 1964 Plymouth Valiant. She would call him whenever she needed a vehicle, but showed no romantic interest. The irony? After the song became a hit, she became his wife. The recording was captured by producer Bill Trout, who secretly rolled tape during what the band thought was a rehearsal. That's why you can hear the raw energy in Peterick's vocal. He was essentially warming up. The horn section, inspired by Blood, Sweat and Tears in Chicago, was arranged by the band themselves. The track was recorded on an 8-track machine, forcing the engineers to bounce tracks multiple times to fit everything in. Spirit of the Sky by Norman Greenbaum. Released in late 1969 but reaching its peak in 1970, this fuzz-drenched gospel rock masterpiece spent 15 weeks on the charts and peaked at number 3. Greenbaum wrote what would become one of the most famous songs about Jesus after watching Porter Wagner singing gospel on TV. The track's signature sound came from a combination of Greenbaum's Fender Telecaster and a custom fuzz box built by a local electronics wizard in a Prince Albert tobacco tin. The grainy reverb effect on the hand claps, that was achieved by recording them in the studio's bathroom. The most incredible part, the song almost didn't get released. Producer Eric Jacobson initially thought the fuzz tone was too aggressive for radio. The solution came when they brought in session vocalist Russell Dashiell, whose ethereal backing vocals helped balance the heavy guitar sound. Fire and Rain by James Taylor. While Bridge Over Troubled Water was dominating the charts, James Taylor's raw confession about addiction and loss peaked at number 3.
I've seen fire and I've seen rain.
Written during Taylor's stay at Austin Riggs Psychiatric Hospital, the song chronicles his friend Suzanne Schnurr's suicide, his struggles with heroin addiction, and the collapse of his band Flying Machine. The recording captures Taylor's vulnerability in a way that today's polished productions rarely achieve. Recording engineer Peter Asher revealed decades later that they actually recorded the song twice, once with a full band and once with just Taylor and his guitar. The stripped-down version won out because, in Asher's words, you could hear the pain in his voice more clearly. The string arrangement was done by Taylor himself, sketched out on hotel stationery while on tour. 25 or 6-4 by Chicago. In the early hours of a Monday morning in 1969, Chicago guitarist Robert Lamb sat at his apartment overlooking Central Park West, trying to describe what it felt like to be writing songs at 3:35 a.m. The result was this hard-rocking masterpiece that somehow only reached number 4 on the Billboard charts. The track showcases Chicago's unique blend of rock and horns, with Terry Kath's blistering guitar work proving that horn bands could rock as hard as anyone. The song took 35 takes to record because producer James William Gurico was chasing the perfect balance between the horns and rock elements. The isolated tracks reveal something fascinating. Kath played his entire guitar solo while the horn section was playing live in the same room. Modern producers would have a heart attack at the thought of such microphone bleed, but that's what gave the recording its organic energy. Hey guys, don't forget to subscribe if you want more stories like these. We love recreating these memories with you. No Matter What by Badfinger. Apple Records' Brightest Hope released this power pop masterpiece in November of 1970, reaching number 8 on Billboard while fighting constant Beatles comparisons.
With you, doesn't matter what you do.
Written by Pete Ham during a sound check at the Marquee Club, the song showcased Badfinger's ability to craft perfect pop hooks without sacrificing rock credibility. The result was a rawer, more immediate sound that captured the band's live energy. The recording holds a bittersweet distinction. It was one of the last songs tracked at Abbey Road Studio 2 before the Beatles' breakup became official. The band used John Lennon's Epiphone Casino guitar and Paul McCartney's Hofner bass for the session, creating a direct lineage to their mentor's sound. Love Grows Where My Rosemary Goes by Edison Lighthouse. This sunshine pop classic topped the UK charts, but stalled at number 5 in America, marking Tony Burrow's third hit with a different band in 1970 alone. The song's pristine production by Tony McCauley captured the last gasp of the 60s optimism as the darker sounds of the 70s loomed. Burroughs recorded the vocal in just 2 takes. The session musicians included Elton John on piano, though it wasn't noted in the credits. The track's working title was Love Grows Where My Rose of Sharon Goes, but McCauley changed it because he thought American audiences wouldn't understand the biblical reference. In the Summertime by Mungo Jerry. This jug band summer anthem dominated European charts, but only reached number 3 in America.
In the summertime, when the weather is high, you can stretch right up and touch.
Recorded in one afternoon at Olympic Studios, the track used no traditional drum kit, just hand claps, a wooden block, and an empty bourbon bottle for percussion. Ray Dorset wrote it in 10 minutes during his lunch break at the electronics factory where he worked, proving that sometimes the best songs come from the most ordinary moments. The famous shuffle rhythm came from the band's T-chest bass player, who couldn't make the session. To compensate, Dorset played his guitar through a Leslie speaker cabinet, creating the distinctive wobbling sound. The song was recorded live with one microphone in the center of the room, a technique that would give today's engineers nightmares. Please don't forget to share your favorite music memory. Hit subscribe and the notification bell if you want to hear more music and stories like this one. Black Night by Deep Purple. Deep Purple recorded this thunderous track in a mere 3 hours after their label demanded a single to follow Child in Time. While it topped charts across Europe, American radio largely ignored it. The band borrowed the main riff from blues projects I Can't Keep From Crying, with Ritchie Blackmore's distinctive guitar tone achieved by running his Stratocaster through a damaged Marshall amp that was literally smoking during the session. The recording captures the exact moment when heavy rock was transforming into heavy metal. John Lord's Hammond organ was played through a Marshall stack at such high volume that the studio's light fixtures were vibrating in rhythm. The tape operator actually called the studio manager, concerned that the volume levels were dangerous to the equipment. That's the kind of commitment to power that today's digital modelers can't replicate. Evil Ways by Santana. Released in late 1969, this Latin rock fusion peaked at number 9 in early 1970. The band recorded it live at Pacific Recording Studios, with the entire group playing in one room to capture the intimate feel of their club performance.
You got to change your evil ways, baby.
Carlos Santana's guitar solo was played through a Fender Twin reverb amp borrowed from Mike Bloomfield because Carlos's amp had been stolen the night before. The percussion section used actual wooden crates for extra sounds because they couldn't afford more Congress. Now here's the real story. The song was originally recorded at a much slower tempo. Producer David Rubison secretly sped up the tape without telling the band, creating the urgency we hear in the final version. When Santana heard it, he was initially furious, but eventually agreed it was the right call. Sometimes the best artistic decisions come from happy accidents, not focus groups. The Witch Queen of New Orleans by Redbone. This mysterious rocker by Native American band Redbone peaked at number 21 in late 1970. Written about Marie Laveau, a famous 19th century voodoo practitioner, the song featured one of the earliest uses of phase shifting on a lead vocal.
Witch Queen of New Orleans.
The band fought Epic Records to maintain their Native American identity at a time when the label wanted to market them as a Latin rock band. They recorded the track using traditional tribal drums alongside modern rock instruments, creating a unique fusion that was years ahead of its time. The song's distinctive keyboard sound came from a Vox Continental organ played through a Leslie speaker that was missing several tubes. The engineer suggested replacing the tubes, but the band loved the broken sound. Pat Vegas's bass line was recorded direct into the console, a revolutionary technique for 1970 that's now standard practice. Sometimes broken equipment creates sounds that no amount of modern technology can recreate. 1970 was a year when musicians made magic with whatever they had on hand. No computers, no auto-tune, no safety net, just pure talent, analog tape, and the courage to take risks. These songs might not have topped Billboard's charts, but they've outlasted countless number one hits that no one remembers today. Please like and subscribe if you want more deep dives into rock history, and share your own memories in the comments.